He was a Division One NAACP champion. Multiple times. Bo knows baseball. Bo knows football. Bo knows tennis. Bo knows basketball. Bo knows running. And so on, and etc. Now, unless you were born 5 years ago and you are a Ilia Tapuera fanboy, you know what I'm referring to. I am not referring to Bo Nickal, aka Bo Fickle. I'm referring to the legend, Bo Jackson. And just to touch on it real quick, I'm not hating on Ilia Tapuera. I'm hating on the vast majority of his annoying pre-adolescent fan base. It's like the fan base recycles itself every few years. You know, it did it with Conor McGregor, did it with Adesanya, now it's doing it with Tapuera. It's like when Jesus sent those demons into the pigs. It's kind of like they're these floating souls that just need something to inhabit, and they just go from fighter to fighter. Like Conor's out, Adesanya's out, Tapuera, like who's it gonna be next? Like they just roam from fighter to fighter, just leeching off of them. These cancerous fan bases. I like Tapuera though. But and by the way, it was very interesting. I heard the point made the other day about Ilia Tapuera and the similarities that he holds with Adesanya. How they appear to be, well, Adesanya was the first, obviously, but some of the very first trans-racial fighters in the UFC. For example, Adesanya with all the places. I don't have the time to get into it in this video, all the different cultures that inhabit his. Israel Adesanya has more melting pot type of cross-cultural DNA than Mariah Carey herself. And Ilia Tapuera is a close second. I mean, that fool, supposedly he's Spanish. I think his DNA is Spanish, but he was born in Germany. But then I don't even know if he ever lived in Spain. But he's Spanish, but he was born in Germany. But then, I don't know if now or he used to live in Atlanta. So it's like this dude's gonna have to come. He's gonna come in with as many flags as he has bouts at some point. And I just made a video the other day about how he could potentially be a 5-division champion. And I'm not saying that as a delusional fanboy. I'm saying that per what we are seeing manifest in the UFC today. But this video is not about Ilia Tapuera. This is about Bo Nickal. Now, the homie Bo Jackson, he was able to hop all over the place. He was able to do whatever he wants. Bo knows badminton. Bo knows long jump. Bo knows marbles. Bo knows everything. As long as we're talking about Bo Jackson. When it comes to Bo Nickal, that's more like, as opposed to Bo Jackson, that's more like Michael Jordan. Bo Nickal is like when Michael Jordan went to play baseball. In case you haven't heard, Bo Nickal just signed a contract with Hulk Hogan. This is not a joke. Bo Nickal just signed a contract with Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and some other fool that I never heard of that probably has some dirt on Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. Bo Nickal has been struggling with this reputation of people thinking that he's overhyped, of people not liking him, of being built up too much too soon, and so on and so forth. And this video was sponsored by my Patreon with new videos every weekday. For reals. He's experienced boos throughout his very brief career. And now he's signing contracts with Hulk Hogan. Now, I have always, and you know what? I will find a way. I'll find a way. I will find a way to always be a fan of Hulk Hogan, no matter what the internet pushes onto my feed. But the last time I saw Hulk Hogan make an appearance, and it was all over YouTube a week or two ago. I don't know what event it was. I don't know if it was WrestleMania or I don't know. They have a major event twice a week these days. Hulk Hogan came out and they booed him as he had more boos than Halloween. It was a sad thing to watch. And if I remember correctly, he had Jimmy Hart out there with him. I think that's who it was, with the megaphone. I thought that fool died. Was it Jimmy Hart? Did he die? He probably died from embarrassment after that. I thought it was Jimmy Hart. I can't remember. But whoever it was, it was cringy, and I felt bad for that fool. But Bo Nickal has signed a contract with Hulk Hogan. Bo Nickal has become now one of the many fighters that are finding things to do outside of the UFC. He hasn't fully left the UFC, according to what we're seeing. Molly McCann, that meatball, she finally left. Half of that tag team. Now, I've been hoping her and Patty Pimblett would leave together, that they would just get on a little canoe and just sail off together. We're going to have to deal with Patty for a little bit longer, but Molly's gone. Some other lady just posted today that she just had a baby and now she's leaving. She's going to go be a mom. And I felt kind of bad because I read some of the comments and people were like, didn't you retire already? Like a long time ago? And some people were like, you were never that good. And it was messed up. It was messed up. John Jones, like people are making their exodus away from the UFC. Francis Ngannou, like this has been happening. Not only these weeks, the last months, the last years, it's been happening. Conor McGregor doesn't care. He makes an appearance here and there. People are going to bare knuckle UFC. People are doing power slap, even though it's kind of like the same thing. Power slap is like when you go to a McDonald's that's in the Walmart. Like UFC is still a Walmart, you know? So like you're a UFC slapper. And Bo Nickal was hyped up very quick. He was like... He came in and got the treatment like Sage Vanzant. That's how Bo Nickal was treated. And he had kind of the same mindset, kind of like Sage Vanzant, but more like Ronda Rousey. And very similar to Conor McGregor and Adesanya, where if you hype them up, they're there for it. And they will feed into it. And they could get eyeballs because people love them or hate them. Or both. But the moment things go sideways, their ego can't handle it. Bo Nickal had an impressive victory on the Jorge Masvidal thing. Then he came in a couple of Dana White contender things. Impressive, quick finishes. His very first official UFC match against Jamie Pickett. I wouldn't consider it a loss. I don't think I could say that technically. But I would say that it should be overturned. I would say that. Because you could clearly see, and I love DC. And sometimes Joe Rogan is the most subjective one. Joe Rogan is like the least that's like a company man. Even though he's like homies with Dana and all that. I feel like if Rogan would have saw, he would have been like, oh, whoa, wait, look at that. But I was really disappointed when nobody said anything. Bo Nickal, and I remember that event. I remember I was streaming it and I called it out and I was losing my mind. Bo Nickal clearly delivered a low blow. Clearly need that fool. And you can go watch it. Bo Nickal versus Jamie Pickett. When you watch the fight, you can see that when he delivered that knee to the groin, Jamie Pickett's his center of gravity, his legs buckled. Like he completely changed his stance. It got way narrower. He sloped in. Everything absolutely changed in that instant and played perfectly into a Bo Nickal takedown, and then everything was over from there. But it was one of those things. I just saw an example of that recently, and I'm trying to remember what it was. there was a fight that I watched very recently where one of the fighters, it was a Charles Oliveira fight. It was, I believe, his first fight against Jim Miller. Charles Oliveira delivered a illegal knee, I believe, while Jim Miller had a knee on the canvas. And the ref let it keep going. And everybody, the crowd was booing. The commentators were like, stop the fight. You know, they were on that whole thing. And it kept going. And Charles Oliveira, I believe, made him tap out. I'm not positive. But somehow, whether it was the decision, tap out, whatever, somehow Oliveira won. They even raised his hand. And then after that, they were talking about it, the commentary, they were talking about it in the post-fight interview, how it might get over, and then it eventually did get overturned. But Bo Nickal's very first official fight that was out of the Contender Series, that should be overturned. Then he had a couple good fights after that. Can't exactly remember what they were. There was maybe 2. And then he immediately ran into that dude. I can't remember his name right now. I apologize. He was the dude that, you know, he's light complected, had some tattoos. And he came out throwing like flying knees and stuff, just trying to throw a wrench into Bo Nickal's game. And that was the first time Bo Nickal had to go past the first round. And he was tested, and that was the fight where he gave himself a thumbs down afterward, and he was disappointed with himself. That right there should have been a first very strong indicator. This dude has a big ego. Big ego. Same thing Adesanya did. I believe it was his first UFC fight. You remember when Adesanya, he did that thing where he was pretending to pee in the cage, and that should have told everyone what they should have known right off the bat about him? It was right after the fight, he went like something like that, like, you know, it's not my bet. What that is like an egomaniac. That's like a narcissist trying from every possible angle to give themselves the best look, to never lose face, even in victory, to give the impression that even that wasn't your best. You got to look better and better and better and better. You got to constantly be framing people's perception of you. And when Bo Nickal did that, that told me a lot about him. He beat this dude, and in this one, he didn't even cheat. There was no groin shot. He legitimately beat him. And then he goes like this, oh, no. That tells you right there that fool was way too in his beanie. That fool was a diva. That fool was not going to face adversity well. First time he ever had to go to the second round. The next fight, he fought Paul Craig. That one went all the way to decision. It just kept getting worse from there. This fool was already too much in his head. And by that point, he was full-blown self-loathing. Bo Nickal did what a lot of other fighters do when they come from a wrestling background. It's the same thing that Justin Gaethje does. It's the same thing that a lot of you probably have a better idea of than even I do off the top of my beanie. They come from a wrestling background. They come from a grappling background, and they feel very early on that they have to prove themselves. They come in with that mindset, I'm not a wrestler. Stop calling me a wrestler. I'm not a grappler. I'm a fighter. And they become self-loathing wrestlers, self-loathing grapplers. All they want to do is strike. And that was his downfall. He was a Division I NAACP champion. Multiple times. So he rides that wave. And then he gets to the UFC and goes, all right, let's box now. That doesn't make any sense. That's like if you go through high school and you get a scholarship for playing basketball and you decide I'm a really, really good athlete. So once I get to college or once I get drafted, I'm going to become a hockey player because I'm an athlete. And it sounds like a lateral enough move. And he started striking. He started doing that game with Paul Craig, maybe again out of ego, because that's the game that Paul Craig was playing. And Paul Craig was talking a lot of mad papas during that fight. He was saying in the corner how he was having so much fun and the dude seemed stiff, that he was talking trash. He was talking trash to Bo Nickal. And Bo Nickal, he comes off as a prideful, egocentric type of dude. And it got in his head. He said, oh yeah? And he tried to knock him out. And he kept swinging with them. There was even a pretty pivotal moment in the fight where he could have went for the takedown, and it even came up with the commentary, and he didn't. He passed on it. He wanted to keep throwing. And there was not a vast strike differential in that fight. Bo Nickal could have very easily lost that fight. His pride almost lost it for him. But let me tell you this right now. I almost called him Ronda Rousey. Reindeer, who's that fool that beat him? That officially beat him? Reinier, something like that. Reinier Ridder. That was not Bo Nickal's first loss. Bo Nickal's first loss, if you don't count the overturn, was against Paul Craig. Because that's the fight in which he lost his soul. Paul Craig broke his spirit. And he messed up from that point on Bo Nickal's game plan. Bo Nickal could have wrestled Paul Craig and would have done better than what he did trying to go toe-to-toe with Paul Craig. Paul Craig was much older than him. Bo Nickal had all the tape in the world and threw any kind of a logical game plan out the window for the background that he came in with. And I think I could understand his move to the Hulk Hogan promotion, because the fan base of MMA has a lot to do with it. And I forgot, I wrote it down right here. Brundage. That was a fight that went to round 2. When he fought Brundage, he tried wrestling. And he did wrestle quite a bit in that match. But that was the first match where the crowd started booing him. Before that, he was able to finish quickly enough that it didn't give the fans time to boo. His first, and I'm going all the way to Masvidal's thing, his first 4 fights, I believe, maybe 5. I think it was his first 4. He ended 4 fights. It was a Masvidal one, 2 contenders, then it was Brundage, and then it was that little Brazilian dude. His first 5 fights, he ended quickly enough, and some of them, he ended with striking. So I'm not saying he should never strike, because Bo Nickal has landed some impressive blows. It's just when he abandons the thing that got him to the dance, that's where it goes sideways. In fight number 6 is when Bo Nickal really had to lean on the wrestling, because Brundage was his first real challenge. And when he leaned on that wrestling, the crowd began to boo, and Bo Nickal never fought the same after that. He went into the fight with Paul Craig almost determined not to wrestle, and he didn't. So he went 2 rounds, got booed, went 3 rounds, almost took a loss, and then he went and finally did lose to Reindeer. And now he's leaving, well, he's not leaving the UFC, but he's adding to it. He faced his first official on-paper loss. And his response is, I know how to handle this. I'm going to spread myself even more thin. I'm going to moonlight. I know how to handle this loss. Instead of watching this back, instead of learning where my holes are, instead of learning where my flaws are, I'm going to go and at least double my work and be active in another promotion. And at first, and I wrote it down here, at first I thought, you know what? Because I saw what he said to Ariel Helwani. I have a quote right here. He said, the thing about... Oh, no, that's the wrong quote. Hold up. That's for a later time. But he did make a statement, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, oh, no, that's for a different time, too. I don't think I wrote down the thing that I wanted to say. Hold up. But so what I didn't write down that he said that I kind of remember, and now I'm super paraphrasing, he made a comment about how he's a competitor and he likes to compete. And he's not able to be as active as he'd like to be in the UFC. He only gets to fight like 2 fights a year. He wants to be more active. Bo Nickal came off that Brundage fight, thumbs downing himself, getting booed, apologizing to Dana, to Donald Trump that was right there saying that wasn't my best. Next fight, he could have very easily lost. Wouldn't even wrestle because it was so in his head. Next fight, he actually did lose. In a very decisive fashion. And his response to that is, man, I don't get to fight enough in that promotion where I just have been like steadily, clearly, observably declining. I'm not as active as I'd like to be in that. I'm going to go do more work. I'm going to find more distractions. And it makes sense to me because of the kind of person that I could tell that he is, and which I've already described. What that is he's someone that's trying to backtrack and save face. Let me remind you of what I'm good at. Oh, you guys think I'm bad? Let me show you. Look at this. Remember that guy from Mad TV? Look at this. He's going to the new promotion with Hulk Hogan. I forgot what it's called. You could look it up. I don't remember the name of it. But what it's supposed to be is like, you know what they call amateur wrestling, but they're calling it pro wrestling, which is confusing because it's not going to have like chair shots and power bombs and drop kicks and stuff like that. They're calling what we all know as amateur wrestling, they're calling it pro wrestling, and then like the tagline is without scripts. So I don't know if that's a legal loophole because maybe what it is improv. There's going to have to be something like that for it to be watchable. Because they state on the thing, I forget the exact wording, but it says something like non-scripted. So I'm thinking that's a legal loophole indicating that it will be pro wrestling led by improvisational geniuses. They'll have to sprinkle some actual wrestlers in there like Bo Nickal. And it, in a way, I could understand certain fighters having to moonlight and do other things. Like there's fighters that go and sell real estate. There's fighters that have to go and make appearances doing other stuff, starting their own little promotions because their name could pull it off for them. But this is different. He's actively competing in something because he's inadequate in something else. What Bo Nickal did by going from his college wrestling to the UFC is like if someone was a really, really good ping pong player. I'm talking like Forrest Gump. Like imagine if like Forrest Gump was Asian. I'm talking about like premier ping pong player. And then someone's like, hey, you know, you're like a scout is like, you're really good at that game. You know what? I got this promotion. Let me take you and put you in this thing right here. And then he has to start playing tennis. And it's like, whoa, I'm standing on the table now. I don't know how to stand on the table. What? It's not the same game. And that's what happened to Bo Nickal. So I could understand, just like there's BJJ promotions, there's BJJ tournaments. Supposedly, and I don't think anyone pays attention, supposedly this is the first time ever that there's been a real active professional promotion where people who strictly do wrestling could then graduate to that and not have to go to MMA. Because before, if you were a great wrestler, it's like, well, what am I going to do now? I guess I'll go to MMA because there's no pro wrestling unless I'm doing like summer, you know, what's it called? Frog Splash and Frankensteiners and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense, especially if you're a Bo Nickal fan, that he would want to go to something that makes sense for him and that he could excel in. But you got to remember that he came into the UFC very hot, very hyped, and running his mouth. He was running his mouth just as much as he was running to that pro wrestling now. Same type of speed. And what I did write down here, he said he likes this promotion because how did he say? The thing about a wrestling match is it's so different from a fight in the preparation. I could just step on the mat right now with no warm-up and compete against the best guys in the world. I feel like that's something that he would edit out if you could take that back. That's like if I'm really, 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 really good at basketball, but for some reason I'm playing professional football and I'm clearly not excelling. And as a football player, someone interviews me and I'm like, man, you know what? I like basketball though, because when I go play basketball, I'm like good and I could win and I could compete on the highest level. Yeah, like that's why I like basketball. Because like when I'm in that, that's like what I was born to do. And I could not be more comfortable and I could beat like 99.99% of people. But however, I'm a football player, so let's go do my next football game. So that is like an admittance right there. He's not where he belongs. But it continues. The suffering continues. He's in the UFC and he's trying to go to wrestling to save face because he wants to show people I can win stuff. I do have capabilities and talents. But at the same time, he still wants to save that face of being in the UFC. He can't leave altogether. What a shot to the pride that would be. He's even gone as far as calling out Jon Jones. And as much as I hate having to listen to Ariel Helwani's voice and the way his Canadian mouth pronounces words, I wanted to do my due diligence. And I could tell you, Bo Nickal called out Jon Jones as well. He said, yeah, I'll meet him at 2:30. I'll meet him at 2:30. Let's do it. Bo Nickal is someone that everyone knows is going to have to go down to like 155 to have it. Like the dudes are just too big. He's not powerful enough. He's not strong enough where he's at. But then if he goes down there, I don't know if he could be strong enough wherever he's at. He could go down to 155 and not be strong enough for those fools either. Whether physically or mentally. Now we're learning. But he did call out Jon Jones. And that's the state of Bo Fickle at the moment. Like a lot of other fighters leaving the UFC, trying to find other things to do, whether because of pay, which I don't think that's the case with Bo Nickal, at least not up to his last loss, because he was being treated like a cash cow. But apparently Bo knows wrestling. Bo knows running. But I do not feel like Bo knows MMA.